Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Pizza Pop, brought to us by Jaleco. Now Pizza Pop was a fun little platformer that was only released in Japan. It has some pretty good graphics and some similarities to Panic Restaurant. So here we go with Pizza Pop for the NES. Now if you don't press start right away at the title screen, you get this little cutscene that pretty much explains the storyline for the game. Now for the storyline of our game, we have our main character who doesn't really have a name, he's just named You. I guess referring to you, the player, who wants to buy a piece of expensive jewelry for his girlfriend Betty. However, of course he doesn't have enough money to buy the jewelry right away, so he's going to have to work delivering pizzas in order to earn enough money to buy that ring. Now the stages are set up that you are given a pizza to deliver to a certain client, and then you head off into that level. Now you can see right away that the graphics are very colorful and vibrant, and it looks really good. Pizza Pop was released in 1992 in Japan, so it was released pretty late in the NES run. Now we have several ways of attacking enemies in this game. You can jump on them, classic style like Mario, or you can smack them with your pizza pan. When you see that you hit them with the pizza pan, they flatten out and turn flat like a pizza pie itself, and then you fling them backwards, which is pretty funny. Now with this being our first stage, most of the enemies are pretty easy to deal with, and as you can see I can run pretty fast through the levels and get by most of the enemies. One interesting thing about the game and the whole running mechanic is that you actually can get tired. If you hold on to the run button for too long running in one straight line, he'll end up stopping and have to take a breather. Now if you jump in the air at any point while running, it negates that little animation so you won't have to stop. So that's why I'm jumping a lot while I'm running. Now that was the end of the first level. There wasn't a whole lot of strategy. The only boss enemies that we fought was 2 stops where we had to deal with multiple of the cat enemies, and we could easily hit them with our pizza pan and flip them out of the way without taking any damage. Now unfortunately, like many great NES platformers, the game is pretty short, only consisting of 7 levels. Now this is our second stage, and it's a window level where we have to work our way up a series of ledges. Now, every time you get up to a certain amount of ledges, you're going to see different random barrels kind of get spewed out from different angles. So they're not going to spawn until the screen scrolls up enough, so they aren't going to just keep coming at you while you're traveling upwards. Making up the windows is pretty easy, and when we reach the rooftop area, we actually have our first boss battle, as we see our rival Nick run by telling his friend, this big mafia bouncer dude, to come out and fight us. Now, being a big guy in a platforming game, when he jumps from left to right or right to left, and he hits the ground, he causes the earth to shake a little bit. So you'll be stunned if you're not jumping in the air to avoid that. He then throws his hat out, which you can easily duck underneath of it, and then deliver a hit with your pizza pan in order to do damage. You can only hurt him when he throws his hat out. After only a few hits, you've defeated him, and we move on to stage number 3. Now our third level changes up the gameplay a little bit, as now we're going to actually be on our pizza scooter. Now while controlling the scooter, you can speed up pretty quickly, as well as you can move up and down and jump over all the obstacles that are either being thrown at you or your rival himself. Most of the stuff is pretty easy to avoid. You can hit the ramps if you want to. There's not going to be any giant pits to jump over during the course of the scooter segment, so you're not going to have to worry about making sure you hit the ramps or else you'll lose a life. It's nothing like that. If you get hit by one of the platforms, you end up losing one bit of health, and then you just continue on. As you can see though, most of the obstacles come at you straight forward and you'll see them coming just a few seconds before they land, so you'll know when to time your jumps. Once we've done that part, we're on a construction zone type area with conveyor belts for the second part of stage number 3. Move along the conveyor belts carefully while jumping. You have a pretty good jump in the game, and the mechanics work really well in Pizza Pop, so you're not going to have to be fighting them at all. Now at this area, you want to go all the way to the right and hit the off-on switch to make this crane move up and down, this hook move up and down. Then go up and hit the one in the top left corner, in which case the hook will now move in a different direction, allowing you to get to this upper right platform where the exit is. Now after we've completed stage number 3, we actually have a minigame. There's 2 of these minigames, they take place after every 3 levels, and it involves you catching pizzas and throwing them into the oven. Now you can stack a good amount of them up, but if you stack too many of the pizzas up, they end up falling and you end up losing them all. So after you get 3 or 4 stacked up, you want to throw them into the oven before they end up falling. The whole mechanics of getting them to land, you're not actually getting them to land on yourself, you're actually aiming towards, of course, the plate. So you have to be careful, and that may take a little bit to get used to, but it's still a pretty overall easy minigame to deal with. Now after a little bit, the game ends, and if you've collected all the pizzas and get a perfect, you end up getting an extra life. If not, you just get a different amount of point score depending upon how many pizzas you caught. 100 points for each pizza. Now when you get your pizza and you're about to deliver it, the sound he makes when on this map screen is familiar. It may be just me, but I'm pretty sure that sounds like the sound effect of Simon Belmont walking across the map screen in the original Castlevania game. Now this is stage number 4, and it's a construction zone again. This time we're heading upwards, similar to like we did in the window level. Our main enemies are these guys with jackhammers, which are really easy to move around. Jump on them if you need to take them out, or hit them with your pizza pan. After that area, we come to another construction area with beams that we'll have to move around. Take out the guys if you need to before making your attempts at the jumps, or wait for them to move on by. This is the harder area right here. Make sure you take your time while making it across those few small jumps, but that's probably the trickiest part of this stage. When we get down here, you can just run across these beams easily and jump at the end to make sure that you make it across the gap to get to the next area, which is our next boss battle. We see our rival Nick again calling in our next boss, who's this hard hat guy who spins around in a tornado, and then when he stops spinning, you'll be able to deliver a hit or 2. Just wait for him to move back and forth, easily jump over him, and deliver as many hits as it takes to finish him off. Now it does take a good amount of hits, and he does drop some items along the way so you can refill your health if you do take a hit or 2. Really not that challenging of a boss. Do you think they could have made that one a little bit more challenging? At least like a projectile or 2 coming out while he was spinning. Now our next level is delivering a pizza to an old witch, who lives, of course, in a haunted house. Now this is probably the hardest stage in the game. You're going to have to use some of the enemies to jump across giant gaps. Like right here, I'm going to have to back up a little bit to get them to respawn here. Move to the right, wait for the ghost to show up, then jump on him, jump on the next one and the next one to get over the large gap there. Now as far as platforming goes, that's probably going to be the hardest jump we're going to have to make in the entire game. Make sure you use the ghost to grab the key or you won't be able to enter the door on the right there. Inside of the house itself, we have more of the ghosts as well as some ghost pumpkins moving back and forth as we use the ghost to kind of bounce off and get to different platforms. Now in the next area, it's dark and the lights will keep coming on and off as you travel through the level. Now there's no pits to jump over and the enemies are just the jack-o'-lanterns, so maneuver around them, and then when you reach the end, it's time for our next boss battle. Now this boss battle is a vampire. Probably the hardest one we've dealt with so far. When he first forms, you can deliver a hit to him. You can only hit him when he's actually in his human form, not in the bat form. But he travels across the screen as the bat. He's gonna home in on you when he is the bat, so when he travels upwards, he's gonna travel towards you wherever you are. But when he hits the ground, he forms back into his human form and you can deliver a hit to him. Once he's done, we've completed the next level, successfully deliver our pizza to the witch, and now we move on to stage number 6.